How you doing, everybody? Good to see you this morning. And let's get the slides running here. It's August 2020. Nice to see you. Happy Monday, everybody. It's August 10th, 2020. Thought of the day. You'll never learn from people if you always tap dance around the truth. Thought it was interesting. I like that quote. I like that quote because it assumes that we want to learn from other people, and it's in favor of being super truthful, which I think pays all kinds of dividends. And I'm actually reading Radical Honesty by Brad Blanton. I read it like 15 years ago, but I'm reading it again. And oh my gosh, that's a tough one to get through. It's a pretty bold claim about the importance of absolute radical honesty. And it's been insightful. It's been a long time since I read that book. I went back to it. And I'm enjoying sort of being challenged in my beliefs about I don't know, just radical transparency and stuff. It's a really interesting book. It's not for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart. A risk warning: all trading involves a substantial risk of loss. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. This presentation is intended to be informational and educational. It's not a recommendation to buy or sell any financial instrument. And if you need personal financial advice, please consult your financial advisor. The slides and the link to stuff is inside of the document of big links, robbiebooker.com/big links. I'm also going to try to get you some of the lessons that I was talking about in the Trade Boldly program. I'm going to talk to Kyle tonight. I'm going to see if I can invite you to a webinar at the last minute that he and I are doing together. Be super helpful if you did attend that webinar and then you asked some questions during that webinar. I'll try to send that link out in the next little while once we finish this presentation. As you know, our office open house is rapidly approaching. It's, I think, the end of the end of next week, right? Something like that. Don't know, can't remember. Something like that. You can RSVP at coaching@wrbooker.com. Nearest airport is IAH, Bush Intercontinental. It's 30 minutes away. It's actually less than 30 minutes away. Houston Hobby is a little bit farther away. And if you stay at the Embassy Suites in the Woodlands at Hughes Landing, you're going to be right across the street from the office. Okay, we're going to talk about closing trades that aren't working. And I'm going to look at Overstock. We're going to look at Intel today and a bunch of others. We're going to check the charts on our big trade possibilities. We're going to check all of the Formula 15 stocks. I mean, at least somewhat briefly. This was from last week. Short the heck out of the market. I think there's something brewing there, and it might be interesting. And then we're going to look at some new Formula 15 trades. For those of you that are not familiar with what a Formula 15 trade is, we will review that really briefly. Let's see here. Matthew says, I have to learn how to take a profit. I watched a $4,000 profit drop away as Wayfair bounced back from its drop on Friday. Yeah, yep. We just got to keep taking profit. You're gonna watch me do it, and we're gonna do it, and you just keep taking profit. I want to be careful about how I say this, but I think there will be, out of 5 days of the week, there will be 4 days where we can take really substantial profits, and we are on the verge of really getting into that kind of a groove. And so you just keep taking those profits. And if those profits disappear, well, then you just take zero and we move on and we take the next one. Okay. Chuck says, is the training you're speaking of Marquez? No, I did a program called Trade Boldly with my friend Kyle Summers, and it's about the psychology of trading. Okay. I prepared some charts for you today. I want to quickly look at 2 of these right now, and then we can come back to these in a little bit. So I'm going to turn off my video. There we go. Can expand on that. And there we go. Okay, I want to check out ODP. It's Office Depot, so they sell office supplies. Obviously, it's a magic formula stock, so we know we kind of like it. We're waiting for bullish divergence, but we do have a bullish profit circle. So the transcript that was just released from their earnings report says, and I quote, so we're not going to see the same level of degradation at the top line that we saw in Q2, but there is going to be continued headwinds. What they're saying is Profits are down, revenue's down, top line revenue, total sales are down. And they're saying that they are going to continue to go down. It's not a great earnings report. Plus, people are really only kind of going back out and shopping in person. I'm sure they have an online presence, but I'm sure Amazon competes with them. And of course, there's always Dunder Mifflin. That's really strong competition, especially when you have an office that's managed by the world's best boss. So it's not really a buy trade, and not only because it doesn't have the bullish divergence, but also the earnings report just isn't great. I'd rather sell this. I'd rather buy puts on ODP. I don't want to buy this one. So it was interesting. I wanted to take a look at it. It is a magic formula investing stock, but there is also the COVID factor. Now, Vector is a different story. Vector Group owns the Liggett cigarette brand, but it also owns one of or the largest real estate brokerage in New York, plus a bunch of real estate related businesses or properties. It's a weird diversification, but I guess it's not out of the ordinary for a cigarette company to have to diversify itself a bit. And so that's what it's done. Now, it's a magic formula stock, so we know that we like it. It had bullish divergence and a bullish profit circle before earnings on the 4-hour chart. And that looks really good technically. According to Management Science Associates, overall industry wholesale shipments for the second quarter were down 4.5%, while Liggett's wholesale shipments increased 1% versus the prior year's quarter. Vector believes that shipments matter more than actual top line revenue growth or whatever else. That if you can do the shipments, if you can increase shipments, that's the metric that makes the most difference. I thought that was really interesting. Now, the real estate business got hammered over the last quarter for obvious reasons. You can't show lots of real estate properties in New York if you can't show real estate properties or even meet with people. However, even New York is opening back up. So there is a glimmer of hope here that we are looking at a stock that is possibly going to be doing really well within the very near future. So what I want to do now is I don't want to go to Google. I want to go to the chart. And let's go to the magic formula list. And we'll take a look here. So this is the 15-minute chart. The 15-minute chart also produced a bullish profit circle the other day. I think this is a buy trade based on its 4-hour chart, based on its earnings report. I like it. I think it is a absolute 1,000% reasonable buy trade coming up here in 1 minute. And what I'm going to do is pull it up here, and I'm just going to look at some possible trades on this one. And then select the September. Let's see, it's $9.31. There's not a lot of volume here. We're going to check and see if anything does change. But that's the problem. I don't know how heavily traded these options are. And so we're going to have to maybe get a better idea once we look at the market opening, and then we'll go from there. This is Supernus Pharmaceuticals. It's a magic formula stock, so we know we like it. It has a bullish divergence and a bullish profit circle that came before earnings. Remember Jazz? Do you remember Jazz? Slide number whatever. It had bullish divergence and a bullish profit circle before earnings. And that turned out to be a really big move. And it was also actually a pharmaceutical company. Now, they suspended guidance, but they said they plan to reissue it on the upcoming earnings call, which is in just a few days. And it does look like a buy trade here. It very much looks like this is a buy trade. And so I'm thinking that this is something we could consider buying even ahead of earnings. So yeah, I just checked up Vector, and it's just really not. It's really not. There's no options activity. Like you could buy some of this. That's, you could buy 1,000 shares of it or something like that, or 100 shares of it or something like that. That seems reasonable. So Vector, it's a buy. options are thin, so we will just buy the stock if we buy. I am going to buy 1,000 shares at $9, no more than $9.40. Target is $10. Just see if we can get some movement there. So I'm going to go back over to Vector, and I'm going to put an alert here. Or move stop break even. All right, Superna, once again, up today. It doesn't surprise me that this is up. I think this is headed for a nice move going into earnings, and we'll keep track of that. We'll just kind of keep a look on that, see what it looks like over the next few days. I have one last one on the Formula 15, and it's PINC. So 15-minute chart shows a bullish divergence and a bullish profit circle before earnings again. We can read the earnings transcript from last time. We can. And when we especially can because I already pulled it up. I haven't read it yet, though. This is the only one I haven't read yet. We do not believe the impact warrants changing or withdrawing our guidance. Okay, good. So let's look at the word guidance. Reviewer. Okay, guidance. Based on our performance throughout the first 9 months of the fiscal year and the current outlook and assumptions for the fourth quarter, including anticipated impact of COVID, we expect to complete the fiscal year generally within the current guidance ranges. That said, due to the uncertainty, it's possible that supply chain services revenue could exceed the top end of our current range, could finish slightly below. Top end of our current range, we expect strong gains in direct services. The low end, due to the pressure, we expect to be at the lower end of profitability, finish a few $1 million below that range. Okay, it's not a I would not call that a spectacular report. So let's take a look at the current chart right here. It's a pretty thinly traded stock, obviously, as well. So I am not intensely interested in this because the earnings report wasn't positive. Earnings not really positive enough. Decision. We've seen something produce the technical trade and not the fundamental side of the trade. And still move up. So it's okay to buy, but just cautiously. I'm not a huge fan of this anyway because there's not a lot of volume here. You can see the candles are pretty spaced out. You can tell just from the chart that it doesn't have a lot of trading volume. And so it's not really like it wouldn't to me show up as like a really, really great idea. Of everything, I like Vector today the most, and I'm going to take a look at your comments. I would just trade VGR shares because the options are too expensive and have a spread. What about BIIB and Cisco? Okay, Kurt, this is great. Okay, we did look at this one. We talked about the fact that this didn't look like a great earnings transcript, but it had the trade, and then I just was like, oh, I'll skip it. Listen, if you got it, if you bought this, you did the right thing, and it's awesome. It's too late to do anything with it now. So there wouldn't be a new trade on this. Clearly, doesn't fit this parameters. Cisco, on the other hand, let's see. Earnings are coming up, and it looks bearish, at least temporarily speaking. We could look at a 4-hour. Nope, there's no trade here. There's no trade at all. It doesn't fit the parameters. We're not getting, it's not after earnings, which is really what we want to see. and there's no bullish divergence in bullish profit circles. If anything at all, Cisco looks bearish, but I wouldn't bet against any technology companies right now at all. Zero, Zippo. I wouldn't get caught in anything before earnings like this. It looks like it's going to fall, Kurt. It looks clear to me that it's bearish on the 15-minute chart, but that doesn't really mean enough. It doesn't really mean enough, unfortunately. There's just no real way to, we don't really take trades before earnings and jump into them. But hey, we'll check it out. We'll see what happens after earnings and see if anything any wonderful, spectacular, marvelous things happen to it after earnings. And then we'll jump over here to the 57. So this is the 57K watch list. This is a watch list of trades I'm either in or have been stalking for quite some time. Pinduoduo is printing bullish divergence on the 15-minute chart. It did come off of its highs, and now it's, the real question is, does it have a good Monday? Does it jump up to the weekly pivot? Does it bounce off of the weekly pivot here? Does it bounce off the underside of the weekly pivot? Now, opening up below the weekly pivot, as it did a few weeks ago, once. Opening up below the weekly pivot is a very bearish thing. This is this move up to the weekly pivot. Generally, if you open up below the weekly pivot, you're going to continue lower, generally speaking, in that first week where it happens. So this is another round of possible. It opens up below the weekly pivot and then takes off lower. If today it doesn't hit the weekly pivot, if it actually falls and goes below last week's pivot, that is an incredible bearish sign. If today it jumps up way above the weekly pivot, that's not good either, even if it bounces off this trend line here that's on the chart. It's not a good thing. If PDD has a really good day and bounces off this or even hits this weekly pivot, then it's, the bulls are back and ole, so to speak. That's not good. NIO is going to print a bullish profit circle on the 15-minute chart. I don't have a lot to say about this one way or the other. There's a lot of enthusiasm for electric vehicle manufacturers right now that rational thinking doesn't really enter the equation. And that's not me being critical. It's just me being thoughtful and honest and whatever. It's just, this is the way it is. Like, electric vehicle manufacturers around the world are being day traded by people, lots and lots and lots and lots of people. And that's going to continue to be the case. And there's nothing that I can do to stop that. And it's not like I would want to stop that. And it's kind of irrelevant that this company doesn't make money. And so I am going to be on the hunt for this stock to drop and to crash and to blow to pieces. But it's not going to do it today. Today's not going to be the day. This is Zoom. Zoom is underneath the weekly pivot. I have a target of $210 on Zoom. It opened a little bit higher, but then couldn't sustain it. The same story is true here on Zoom. If we go above the weekly pivot all the way up to this trend line, this blue trend line, this 270 area, that's just super bullish, and it's probably going to continue from there if that happens. If we instead, it's hard to imagine, but if somehow we fell $7 today and we went below last week's pivot on Zoom, that is incredibly bearish. It would probably usher in another $10 or $20 of losses on Zoom. But listen, we're swimming upstream on this one. It's very hard to imagine that this is even remotely possible. So we'll just sit on that for a second and let it happen. So this is Wayfair. I feel you, man. You got some profit on Wayfair and then you let it go. Wayfair opened above this week's pivot, and that's bullish. That's a bullish thing. I still own, actually, the 18th of September $300 strike. The puts, I bought them for $27.50, and they're actually, it's a possibility here. We want to see this drop below this week's pivot. If we're already above it, so we already don't like what we see. But once again, this was incredibly overbought on a lot of different time frames simultaneously. So I think we have a nice chance of seeing some movement here that we like. Here's Overstock. What a rocket ship of a stock. I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't even know how to handle this. It's just so outrageous. One, two, three, four weekly pivots in one, two, three, four in a row that have been missed, and a fifth right now. Top 10 answers on the board. Survey says, here's the question, whatever, on Family Feud. 100% chance that we hit this week's pivot at $97. Statistically speaking, it's almost impossible for a financial instrument to miss 5 weekly pivots in a row. That's technically not supposed to be statistically possible. Of course, it still could happen, and like what do I know? But Overstock is, of all of them, really, of all of the ones that we're talking about, Overstock is really the one with the craziest story here of, $2 a share in March, right? Just a absolute, just a spectacular move. I haven't read Overstock's earnings report, but I think it was shockingly good. Just shockingly good. But when we're looking at this, we're really looking at a technical trade, that this is a stock that just doesn't have the statistical likelihood of staying as high as it is. So it should fall this week. It should fall to the weekly pivot. It should fall another $3 or $4 sometime this week. And we'll just, we'll kind of keep track of it and see where we go from there. I like the idea that, of all the trades that I could possibly see, of everything that I could possibly imagine, and I don't own these. I don't have a trade on Overstock. I don't own any puts on Overstock. I'm just watching it. I don't know. I'm just watching it, and I'm just constantly amazed. I guess in some respects, I would probably love to see this rise. I'd probably like to see this go up, not down. Like, I'd probably like to see it go up and then get a whack at this one and really see if I can do something special here, with the stock probably dropping 50% or so. Okay, I had Intel. I don't have Intel anymore. Guess what Intel is doing today? Everything it is supposed to be doing. So good for you, Intel. If you still have Intel, that was a magic formula stock with the bullish divergence and the bullish profit circles. I don't know. I don't even know why I don't have this one anymore, but it is looking really good today. AbbVie is looking really good today. We bought this last week. It's printing a bullish profit circle on the 15-minute chart. The second time it's printed bullish divergence and a bullish profit circle. I think AbbVie should get back. I'm only down like $500 on this trade, and so it's not even at my max risk. I think we'll see this one recover pretty nicely. It's a good company with good fundamentals and everything else that we like to see. Zoom is not staying up. That's good. And I still own some Acor. Still own 1,200 shares of that. So maybe we'll see this pop, and then that would be really great. Yeah, Overstock is big into blockchain research and development. So, Sue, I think there's a logical reason that it went up. Like, you can follow the story of Overstock, right? You could say, well, Overstock's got like interesting things that attract people to it, and then you have the reality, which is it was at $2 in March, and now it's at $102, and that's just probably, even with all of that stuff, it's probably just overshot the target a little bit. But I don't have a trade on it right now either. Part of me thinks that I should have had a trade on it. But I don't have one yet, and it may fall too far too fast for me ever to get one. But I don't want to get caught in this one right now. I don't want to get stuck in this. I don't want to get hammered on this one. I mean, if we look at Overstock's numbers here, so we can go to Yahoo Overstock. Lots of average volume, earnings per share. I think that's the last one. I don't think that's the current one. I think the current one, it did have earnings. Negative profit margins, negative return on equity. Cash flow, 135 million. They don't really have enough cash on hand if you look at it. There are some things I don't like about this. Their revenue growth was pretty significant. That's always good. But I think we will have fun watching this. That's all. Wow, Zoom is not having a good day. Zoom is down a bit more. So what we're really looking for is we're looking for Zoom, like I said, we're looking for Zoom to go below last week's pivot. And if it can go below last week's pivot, then, well, it could be pretty amazing. It's got to start moving. So, I need Zoom to start moving below all of its pivots. I need Zoom to get down to like 241 again, and we'll see if it does. We'll see if it does. We'll check it from there. Wayfair is down as well, so it doesn't look like overall. It doesn't look like these stocks are doing that great today. There's Wayfair, and there you have it. You can ask me, Kurt, anything you want to ask me on this call. TER. Teradyne. So it's after earnings. So if I were doing if I don't know if this is a company with fundamentals that you really like, but let's assume that it is. Teradyne's chart isn't showing anything spectacular after earnings, as far as like a 15-minute, 4-hour after earnings is not showing anything either. It's an upward trend, so you've got to at least favor that. But with that said, Teradyne is like probably just about to print a bearish profit circle. And if it does go below 85.70, that would be bearish. You would then be below last week's pivot, this week's pivot, and 2 weeks ago's pivot. And if you do that, it's bad. You see here this consolidation of pivots. It's another way of looking at a market that is about to break out. Now, it could break out higher. You can see the last time it consolidated, it broke out higher. But that goes both ways. At a market top, it will do both of those things. It will consolidate here, break out, look like it's going to go, and then it will fake out and go the other direction. So that consolidation is not really what you want to see as a bull. As a bull, you would want to see things breaking as soon as possible. So we'll see what's what, right? What do I think about Amgen? Yeah, Kurt says, could you start getting into the trades that look good? I would stick, Kurt, this is a good question. I would stick to any trades that look good to you, take them. Always cut them off really quickly with a very small loss, like we talk about. And then if you get a win, just grab that tiger by the tail and hold on to it. And, every day bring a stock here to this session and ask about it. And every time you ask about a stock, always say, hey, listen, this is what I think about the stock. What do you think about the stock? So then I know that you're doing, so like you say, hey, listen, it's got a bunch of technical stuff that I like, and I read the earnings transcript and I like it. What do you think? So it's always good to start things off with your own point of view. Jeff says maybe stocks like Wayfair, Overstock, and Zoom will fall after the election when the virus hype is over. So Kurt says I'm in TER and it's down slightly. Would you get out? Yeah, I would. Yeah, down slightly is a great place to get out. Down slightly is a wonderful place to get out. Love that idea. I love the idea of only being down a little bit. It's so easy to recover profits when you're only down a little bit. Wow, Wayfair is having a terrible day. So I own those $300 strike puts, and it's now at $299. Might come back a little bit from this. That would be nice. That would be really nice. Okay, VGR is up today. Our little trade on VGR is up to $9.63. I'm up $181 on that. I think we probably will see it rise to $9.85 or so, and that weekly pivot that was missed. See here, it's got a number of missed weekly pivots. It's got 1, 2, 3 times a pivot. So that's statistically, it wants to definitely go. Wayfair is not having a pleasant time right now. I don't know what's going on with Wayfair right now, but Wayfair is crossing the boundary that I said I wanted to be alerted to when it really started to drop. So look at that. All right, well, I do have those $300 puts. I might end up having a little bit of I might have $1,000 profit on that. And I don't remember who it was this morning that said you lost your profit on Wayfair, but it's back now. I'm up almost $1,000 right now, $900 right now on Wayfair. I'm going to be up $1,000 in just a minute here on Wayfair. That could be a really nice morning. 975, $1,025. There you go. Well, check that out. Wow, I don't really actually know what happened. We can check the news, but Overstock and Wayfair, they're probably just resting after having been, those rocket ships. All right, so Gary is asking something. Okay, Gary says, I got the ACGL $30 call. Would a target of 40 be smart to aim for? Let's look at ACGL. So you knew you liked it. Yeah. Yeah, it's bullish, rising. Just any. So Gary, and everybody, this is a great question. So here's my perspective on things. You keep taking easy money and you keep cutting off losing trades. So just keep cutting off losing trades. Keep dumping bad trades. Just keep throwing them in the garbage. And then just keep, if you got some money on ACGL or whatever, just keep taking the money. If just keep, there's a number, and for me it's 1,000. So for me it's $1,000 because I could trade 10 contracts or whatever. But for me it's $1,000, and $1,000 is, it doesn't require, the market doesn't have to move that far. So I have a $300 put, and Wayfair went to 296 and I got $1,000. It doesn't have to move that much in order for me to get some money. Just keep taking that money. You will find that at some point in time, you will grab one and it will really start to move, and you won't take your 1,000, you'll hold on to it a little bit longer. And that will just happen naturally over time. You will just learn that every once in a while you'll take a trade intending it to be just sort of a reasonably sized win, and you'll get a tiger by the tail. You'll get this thing and it will just be brilliant. And so you just keep taking some money, and then every once in a while you're going to get a really good one. And Wayfair might be that one. Wayfair might be it. At some point in time, or PDD or whatever. But yeah, just you just keep taking, like, if ACGL, you got some money on it, and if that's your number. And how do you know what your number is? How do you know what your number is? Whatever's reasonably easy for you to produce, that is equal to or at least slightly bigger than your average loss. Just whatever that is. Just keep taking money. It grows your confidence, it grows your happiness, all of that stuff. Matthew's he's showing 4K in profits on Wayfair now. Well, Matthew, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say congratulations. First of all, it's below. I mean, it's below $300 now. It's below this week's pivot. You did well, and I know that the big concern is. I know the concern is, how do I know if I should take this money or if I should hold on for more? And I know that's the big concern. And let me just make it easier for you. This is moving a lot, and it's moving hard, and it's moving reasonably fast. So let it do nice things for you. Let it do something nice for you. Matthew, just let it drop. Allow it to drop. Give it some space to do, maybe get down to 295 and give you $5,000, or give it some room. And if it jumps back up or whatever, like, what you've proven is you know how to take a trade that is a winner. You know how to stay in it on a day when it takes back some of the profit that it gave you. You know not to panic. You know that this all turns out reasonably okay if you plan the trade well. And now, just part of success here, I think, is just allow it. Allow it to do something nice for you. Let it drop. Let it naturally take care of itself. Now, if it were not moving at all today, I would have a very, very different opinion about it. If it wasn't doing anything for you, why would we want it? So I have a tendency in my life, and for years with trading, I would have a tendency to be patient with the stuff that wasn't moving in the correct direction, and be impatient with the profits. But you want it to be the other way around. You want to be patient with this. It's like it's doing everything that you asked it to do, and it's doing it reasonably easily right now. So maybe this is you don't know what this trade is worth. You don't know it. But you want to take 1,000 of that for? Take 1,000 of that for. And then you're playing with the house's money or whatever. It's a reasonable thing to do. All right, well, what makes me really happy today is that we are taking trades more frequently because of the Formula 15. And then we've got these bigger picture trades like Wayfair or Overstock or others. We're balancing out our stuff. So Kurt, you zeroed out your loss on Wayfair. Excellent. Glad to hear it. Congratulations. Now, So Kurt got into Wayfair on Friday. Didn't see any message from you that you did. I'm so sorry. I thought we talked about it. If we didn't, I apologize for that, but you did. Great. Mark says IBB, so we'd like to see a break. I'm just going to look at IBB. Mark, thanks for. Oh, we've traded this before, haven't we? I'm just going to make sure, Mark, you and I are on the same page on this. Yeah, okay. Bearish fake out? Yeah. Yeah, I would call that a bullish trend. I would definitely call that a bullish trend. We'll have to see, right? Below, I guess the same analysis would ring true here if we break the lows here at 135. I would say it's not looking good. But right now it's not going anywhere up or down really. It's not really having a good or a bad day, so why don't we just allow it to do. I don't think there's a really great trade here on IBB anyway. I don't see something just screaming at me, but that doesn't mean it's not possible to take something really great. Okay, I'm going to put the recording up as soon as possible.